Ash Denham, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. We are in very challenging times. The Scottish Block Grant is 5% lower in real terms than it was 5 years ago. The Fraser of Allender Institute have recently predicted that the budget could be cut to up to 6%. That's a staggering £1.6 billion over the next 5 years. The Institute states that the Scottish budget has faced unprecedented cuts since 2010. This represents a full decade of significant cuts to the Scottish budget. And if this wasn't bad enough, due to the impact of inflation, any financial commitments made by this government, such as the one to increase NHS revenue budget by £500 million in real terms, will be even more expensive. It will be the same story with repayments associated with revenue finance capital investment programmes such as PFI, which already represent a significant portion of health spending. This is the backdrop on which the achievement of this government must be considered. Achievements such as the increase in the overall NHS budget to a record high of £13 billion this year, record numbers of staff across the board, from nurses to GPs to consultants to paramedics. Unlike England, no compulsory redundancies in NHS Scotland, banned 5 nurses on higher pay, retained bursary support for nursing and midwifery students. I could go on, but I fear I would run out of time. The NHS really is demonstrably safe in our hands. So I would urge the Labour Party to consider that the real reason for the cuts to Scottish budget is Tory austerity, and unite with these benches against the real cause and stand up for Scotland's public services instead of disparaging them. The motion for debate before us today, though, concerns changes to services, and in that list of hospitals put forward by Labour, one affects my constituents, and that is the proposal to change the provision of cleft lip and palate surgery. My interest in this is due to many constituents contacting me about the possible loss of service in Edinburgh. Furthermore, the service is currently provided from the Edinburgh Royal Hospital for Sick Children. That hospital has now reached the end of its life, and it's being replaced with a state-of-the-art brand new hospital due for completion in early 2018, sited next to the Edinburgh Royal Infirmary, which is in my constituency. I'm very keen to ensure that my constituents continue to receive the very best in care. At the moment, the provision in Edinburgh at the Royal Hospital for Sick Children is of the highest standard. It's led by Dr. Felicity Mehendale, a world-class surgeon who is a leader in her field. Next year, she takes up a 4-year presidency of the International Cleft Association. And she will also host, beating off some quite stiff competition from Kyoto and Brisbane, the 14th International Cleft Congress, to be held here in Edinburgh in 2021. The proposal by the National Specialist Services Committee and recently approved by NHS Board Chief Executives is to move away from a single surgical service over 2 surgical sites to a single surgical service on 1 site. The new service is proposed to be run from Glasgow. Part of the surgical goals for cleft palate is that the patient must reach speech standards, and these are assessed at age 5 according to UK protocols. The Edinburgh team score very highly on these, consistently scoring in speech standard 1 over the past standard of 50%, and in 2016 scoring an impressive 90%. In contrast, the other team has on 2 occasions in the last 4 years failed to meet the past standard, and in 2015 scored as low as just 36%. Speech standard 2A, which is distinct in that it cannot be affected by speech therapy, shows a similar story over the last 4 years. The Edinburgh results for the last year being 95% and Glasgow's only 68%, which in fact fails the pass mark in this instance of 70%. The Glasgow service, unfortunately, has not met the pass mark at all in the last 4 years. Therefore, the clinical evidence, I feel, does support the retention of services in Edinburgh. The Edinburgh service, with its multidisciplinary team, is one of the best in the UK, and it's recognised as being of international standard. The proposed change would mean an impact on families from the east of Scotland who would lose the best in care outcomes, and it would also create a deficit in the eastern part of the country. And I have much sympathy for the fact that patients and their families will have longer travel times by car from Aberdeen and Inverness in the north, right down to Melrose in the south. But by public transport, these journey times from Fife, from the Borders, from East Lothian and from Edinburgh are significantly more, and in many cases will be double what they would have been to Edinburgh. I do already have a meeting set up with the Cabinet Secretary to discuss this issue, and I hope that she will listen to the concerns of my constituents and retain the Edinburgh Cleft Palate Service.
Thank you.